Absolutely not. Thank
So
you.
you got your
I
job?
don't eat there now. They're like, you get a break meal. And I'm like, I put everything on the break menu.
Julia, take some.
You got your job?
Yep.
Oh,
You got it?
I mean, I accepted the offer, so.
Now, is this a government?
Mm-hmm.
It is government, yeah. It's probably its own own agency too, isn't it? It's not under any organization.
Hey, Pastor, you got any secrets for fixing this?
Might be under commerce.
What's it?
I think it is.
Might.
They don't do.
What's
they
it
don't
doing?
do-
It's breaking it into 4
They don't do
screens.
security clearance.
No, it's
I won't get a
the
security.
desktop is broken. The picture is.
Which I'm kind of slightly upset about because if I move,
But when
if I try to
you
move
put it up there, is it 4
see,
screens?
I have to get a background check.
Or just the
So
images?
6 months they did, so.
Was it in DC or Virginia?
Yeah, it's just
Virginia.
It's in Alexandria.
Yeah.
It's about 50 minutes from my house.
So we're
Well, good for you.
Anybody pen? Leave them for this morning.
Today's lesson is mostly filling out a handout. It's going to focus on the tabernacle. Tabernacle. As we looked at the events surrounding the golden calf last week, we saw God's holiness and justice on display. God had given the Israelites a clear command to reject idolatry. In the absence of Moses' presence, they willingly broke that commandment, asking Aaron to make them a false god to worship. Aaron obliged, gathering the gold from the earrings and melting it down into a calf. When the Israelites worshipped the calf against God's command, his jealousy was evident. His anger, in his anger against the Israelites, he justly punished with the sword and then with a plague. Exodus 32:28 and 32:35 say, "And the children of Levi did according to the word of Moses, and there fell of the people that day about 3,000 men. And the Lord plagued the people because they made the calf which Aaron made." So I just wanted to put that period. I didn't get a chance to put that on last week's lesson. So the people were judged. 3,000 people ended up dying for worshiping that false idol. Today, we're going to go back a few chapters. And we're going to learn about the tabernacle that God gave Israel when they were at Sinai. We're going to see how God's holiness is on display in the details of worship. So he was very detailed in how he wanted them to worship him. And then ultimately, we're going to see how the tabernacle pictures or foreshadows Christ, the coming of Messiah. So this is a picture of the tabernacle. All right, let's see. So the plan for today, I've given you a handout. And this handout consists of 2 parts, okay? So the first page, front and back, is the Old Testament tabernacle. Okay, that's what we're going to look at first. We're just going to go through one item at a time in the tabernacle, and we're going to try and identify interesting characteristics about it. Now, you can either write them down as we go through, so I have them blank on the front, or on the back, I have my proposed answers. Okay? So if you don't want to write them down, you can just look at the answers. Then, hopefully we can get through that relatively by about 10:30. And then the second page is the New Testament tabernacle, which is fulfilled in the Lord, in Christ. And we'll look at the characteristics and how the Bible ties them back. And the answers for that are also on the back. Okay? So 2 pages. Old Testament is first, and then New Testament is second. And this doesn't really work. All right. So, let me see. I'm trying to remember what this was. Okay, so remember, Moses made those 6 trips up the mountain. He gave the tabernacle during the 5th trip up the mountain. Okay, so that's where it says, Exodus 24, 1 through 2, and he said unto Moses, Come up unto the Lord, thou and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and worship ye afar off, and Moses alone shall come near the Lord, but they shall not come nigh, neither shall the people go up with him. So Aaron and the elders went back, and that's when all this falderall happened down in the camp that we talked about last week. And God was giving Moses the tabernacle instructions up on the mountain. So in chapters 25 through 40, Moses received instructions for building the tabernacle. Exodus 31:18 says, And he gave unto Moses, when he had made an end of communing with him upon Mount Sinai, 2 tablets of testimony, tablets of stone, written with the finger of God. So he gave him the tabernacle, then he gave him the stone, with the 10 Commandments, and Moses took it back down the mountain. That's when he got mad and threw it. So that's the circumstances. Okay, now we're going to talk about the Old Testament. Okay, so first of all, here's just a general layout of the tabernacle. So it had essentially 2 parts. It was made up of this outer court, and we'll talk about that, but essentially this is curtains held up by pillars. And then inside was a big open spot, and there was the altar where they would do the sacrifices. There was a copper laver here that had water in it. And then this was the holy place and the Holy of Holies. Okay, and it was set off by a separate set of curtains. And then we'll talk about all the things that were inside of it. Actually, they've got them listed here. I guess we can just touch on them quickly. So there was the table that had the bread on it. There was the candlestick that provided light. There was an altar of incense here. And then there was the Ark of the Covenant that was in the most holy place. So we're going to talk about those one at a time. And we're going to start with the Ark of the Covenant. All right, so let's just dive in here. So this starts with some reading, and I didn't put them on my paper, so I'm just going to read them from here. So let me read this, and then we'll see if we can get these different descriptions. It says, And they shall make an ark of shittim wood, 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and a cubit and a half the breadth thereof, and a cubit and a half the height thereof. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, within and without shalt thou overlay it, and shalt make upon it a crown of gold round about. And thou shalt put into the ark the testimony which I shall give thee. And thou shalt make a mercy seat of pure gold, 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and a cubit and a half the breadth thereof. And thou shalt make 2 cherubims of gold, of beaten work shalt thou make them, in the 2 ends of the mercy seat. And the cherubims shall stretch forth their wings on high, covering the mercy seat with their wings, and their faces shall look one to the other. Toward the mercy seat shall the faces of the cherubims be. And there I will meet with thee, and I will commune with thee from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubims which are upon the ark of the testimony, of all things which I give thee in commandment unto the children of Israel. So I didn't put all the verses in here, because it's a pretty long passage. I just did some key passages. Okay, so materials. Now, I'm going to hit the button and it's going to flash and we're going to get different colors, okay? So what I tried to do is make it a little easier for us to find these, so I color-coded where I think those are, okay? So here we go. All right, so materials. What were the materials?
Well, what's the difference between acacia wood and
Shittim wood. So shittim wood comes from an acacia tree.
so it's the same?
Same.
So that's what it's made of.
So that's what it's made of. It's made of shittim wood or acacia wood. That's right.
Gold.
And gold. Exactly. All right, good. So those are the materials. Shittim wood and gold. How about the dimensions? So let's put that.
2.5 by 1.5 by 1.5 cubits.
Okay, can you convert those into feet real fast if you're 18 inches a cubit?
Like 5 feet, and
3.9.
If I did my math right, if I didn't do my math right, those numbers might be off. But I did those. So let's see, 2 cubits and a half cubit. So 2 cubits would be 3 feet, And a half cubit would be half of 18, which would be 9 inches. That's why I got 2 feet 9 inches. Let's see. All right. So let's see. So let's see how big is that. The length is about 3 feet. So the length is about that big. The width, right, is about that big. Width, I guess, would be that big. That big. Okay. And then it had the mercy seat on top of it. So that made it a little bit bigger. Okay, what features?
It's got the mercy seat, it's got the cherubim wings going over the top, it's got the box.
Okay, it's a box covered with 2 angels facing each other. It's a container. I don't know if I captured that one. Let's see, what's the container? There's a somewhere in there. I'm told to put the. Didn't highlight it. But essentially, it was a hollow box, and they were going to put the the stone tables into it to carry. Anybody else know what else went into the ark? So, the stone tables went in.
Aaron's rod.
Aaron's rod went in. There was one other thing.
Manna.
A bowl of manna. That's right. As a record. Okay, good. What was the purpose of the Ark of the Covenant?
It's a manifestation of the physical presence of God in the nation of Israel.
It was the place where God was going to, his presence was going to appear to the high priest. Okay? He was going to appear in the center of between those 2 angels above the mercy seat. And there will I meet with thee, and I will commune with thee from above the mercy seat. Okay, it was also intended as a container to carry those items we talked about. Okay, and then I didn't have the location. I'll show the map of where the location is. So the location is in the Holy of Holies. So it went in the most holy part, because that's where God's presence was going to be. Okay, so here's a picture. This is, of course, somebody's imagination of what it might have looked like. So this lid would come off, and down in here would be hollow, right? This top part, this is the crown around the outer edge, right? And then the mercy seat is right there in the center between the 2 angels. Let's talk a little bit about the acacia wood. So an interesting thing about the acacia wood, all of these items are made with acacia wood and then covered over with some kind of metal. So, you may think, oh wow, that would be super heavy and it would be super expensive. Well, it's mostly wood, right? It's just covered over with gold. The interesting thing about the acacia wood is its leaves, its branches are very thorny. A lot of historians believe that probably Christ's crown was made out of acacia wood. And so we definitely see the curse represented in the thorns of the acacia wood. Okay, any questions on the Ark of the Covenant? Okay. So let's go to the table of showbread. By the way, let me go back one step. Oh, I didn't get the picture on this one. Okay, it'll show up on the next one. Okay, the showbread, table of showbread. So let me read the verse first. Exodus 25, 23 through 30. It says, Thou shalt also make a table of shittim wood. 2 cubits shall be the length thereof, and 2 cubits the breadth thereof, and 1.5 cubits the height thereof. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, and make thereto a crown of gold round about. And thou shalt make unto it a border of an handbreadth round about. And thou shalt make a golden crown to the border thereof round about. And thou shalt make for it 4 rings of gold, and put the rings in the 4 corners that are in the 4 feet thereof. Over against the border shall the rings be for places of the staves to bear the table. And thou shalt make the staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with gold, that the table may be borne with them. And thou shalt make the dishes thereof, and spoons thereof, and covers thereof, and bowls thereof to cover withal. Of pure gold shalt thou make them, and thou shalt set upon the table showbread before me always. Okay, so you should be picturing a table. This is a table. It's got a border on it, and it's going to hold plates, and it's going to hold on the plates. It's going to be bread. So that's what that he's describing here. So what materials is it going to be made out of? Okay, it's going to be made out of shittim wood, and what else? And it's going to be all covered with gold. Okay, so again, it should not be heavy. There you go. Okay, how about the dimensions?
1.5, 2 by 2 by 1.5.
Yes, okay, in cubits, let's see what those are in feet. Okay, so 2 cubits at 1.5 feet each is 3 feet. Okay, so 3 feet wide, 1 foot wide, and a cubit in breadth. Actually, it's 1 foot 6 inches. John, you need a paper. You have one? 2. You need a pen, John?
Yeah.
We're filling out this. We're on this second one. The answers are on the back. Okay, and the height 2 feet 3 inches tall, so it's relatively short. Okay, what features do we see about it? First of all, it is a what? It's a table. Okay. What is this? Staves. Those are the poles, right? So when they're traveling, they're carrying it on those poles, just like the ark. We didn't talk about that, but the ark had that. Just like the ark had it, this had it. Okay, and then it's going to be covered with dishes, spoons, and bowls. All those are on the table. Okay, and then the purpose. What's the purpose? It's to hold something. What's it going to hold?
Bread.
It's going to hold showbread. How long would the showbread be put out? Does anybody know? I happened to read about that as I was going through.
It was like once every couple days.
It's once a week. So the priest would put it out at the beginning of the week. It would stay there all week, and then they would take out the old, and they would actually eat it, and then they'd put on new bread. So it would hold the showbread, and it was located on the north side of the holy place. The next picture, you'll have a better image. So here's what it probably looked like. And the location, okay, so just this kind of reverse from where I showed you the last picture. This is the Holy of Holies, so that's where the Ark of the Covenant was. It was separated by its own curtain from the holy place. So the priest would come in here, and then, Pastor, is it once a year they would go in here?
The Holy Holies, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so the thing we're talking about right now is the table. So the table was right here on this side.
As you're facing the Holy of Holies, is on the left.
On the
right, sorry.
Right. Yeah. So you come in like that, and it's on the right. They give north, south, east, west later. All right. All right. Questions?
Where's the location?
Where are we at on this?
Yeah.
We're on this one right here. Table of showbread. If you want the answers, they're also on the back. All right. Number 3, the golden candlestick. I'm standing over here to read this, John. Please get in your way. Golden candlestick, Exodus 25:31 through 40. And thou shalt make a candlestick of pure gold. Of beaten work shall the candlestick be made. His shaft and his branches, his bowls, his knops, and his flowers shall be of the same. And the 6 branches shall come out of the sides of it, 3 branches of the candlestick out of the one side, and 3 branches of the candlestick out of the other side. 3 bowls made like unto almonds, with a knop and a flower in one branch. 3 bowls made like almonds in the other branch, with a knop and a flower. So in the 6 branches that come out of the candlestick. And in the candlestick shall be 4 bowls made like unto almonds, with their knops and their flowers, and there shall be a knop under 2 branches of the same, and a knop under 2 branches of the same, and a knop under 2 branches of the same, according to the 6 branches that proceed out of the candlestick. Their knops and their branches shall be of the same. All it shall be one beaten work of pure gold. And thou shalt make the 7 lamps thereof, and they shall light the lamps thereof, that they may give light over against it. And the tongues thereof and the snuff dishes thereof shall be of pure gold. Of a talent of pure gold shall he make it with all these vessels. And look that thou make them after their pattern, which was showed thee in the mount. So, I don't know about you, but if I were trying to make this from that description, I would have a hard time. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what in the world is the design of this thing. If you go online and look at Google, there's all kinds of pictures of menorah. So what was the actual look of this thing? So the first challenge is the word knop. Does anybody know what the word knop means?
It's a bug, isn't it?
So knob is the old English word for knob. It just means knob. So if you replace the p with a b, you got it. Now, particularly, it's a knob that is decorative. It's a decorative knob. Okay. Now let's see. So let's talk about materials here. So let's go to the materials. I do have a picture on the next slide, but there's one thing I want to point out. Although it may be difficult for us to think exactly what this would look like, you got to notice this. And look that thou make them after their pattern, which was showed thee in the mountain.
Right.
So Moses got a mental picture of this thing, right? He's not having to come up with this from scratch from the description. He got a mental picture of it. Okay, so materials. What's this thing made of?
Gold.
Just gold.
Pure gold. Okay. How much is a talent of gold? Does anybody know how much a talent is?
75 pounds.
Oh, you cheater! I bet you look that up. You just know it.
It's written in the...
Okay. Yeah, 75 pounds. That's right. Okay, 1 talent, 75 pounds of pure gold. Good. Okay, dimensions. There's no dimensions given here, right? So there's tradition. We can go by what Jewish tradition was. Jewish tradition was it was about 5 feet high and 3 feet wide. So about as tall as me and 2 feet wide. Okay, features. So just the description of it. You know, all the knops and flowers and almonds. If you read the commentaries on this, the idea was it was supposed to symbolize an almond branch. So it was supposed to include an almond flower and an almond nut and an almond bud. That's what the design was supposed to represent. The thing is, it contains 7 branches. So the central one, and then 3 on one side and 3 on the other. Okay, so that's how you get 7. What was the purpose?
Light.
I mean, what's the purpose of a candle stand? It's to light, to give you light. Now, in my mind, I had the idea of, like, you would hold candles on top of it, right? When I think of a candlestick, I think of something that holds candles. That was not what this was, okay? This was not holding candles. On top, it would hold an olive oil dish with a light on it. So the olive oil would serve as the thing that would light it. So it was intended to give constant light inside the tabernacle. Okay, it was on the south side in the holy place. So here's a better look. So these are the knops, the flowers, and the bowls. Okay, and each branch had 3. So if you look at verse 33, it says 3 bowls made like unto almonds with a knop and a flower in one branch. So a knop, this is decorative knobs in the shape of a flower, and they have a bowl shape. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's where you get that from. The center one has 4. And there shall be a knop under 2 of the branches of the same. So this branch is 1 branch, and that branch is 1 branch. So that's 2 branches. So there's your knop underneath it. Branch, branch, knop, branch, branch, knop. And then if you read, there's another verse that says the center one has 4, which means it needs 1 more right there. Okay, so this gives you the better picture of the almond, right? Have you seen an almond nut, right? This is kind of the shape of the almond. So the lamp is in the shape of an almond, and the light is coming out where it's lit, right there on the end. So I ask my class when I'm teaching younger kids, like club, sometimes I'll ask, now, is this a picture from Moses' day? Right. No, this is somebody recreating what they think it probably looked like, right? So we could disagree, and if you go look at Google, you'll see a bunch of different pictures. But this is one artist's thinking of how it probably looked. Okay. And let's see, it was located on the opposite side. South, it said, right? So you got to think of where that's at. But it was opposite the showbread in the holy place. Okay, questions on the candlestick? Okay, we're going to have to speed up, otherwise we're never going to make it to the... All right, the tabernacle. So this is the inside tent. Several verses. It says, Exodus 26:1, Moreover, thou shalt make the tabernacle with 10 curtains of fine twined linen, and blue and purple and scarlet, with cherubims of cunning work shalt thou make them. And thou shalt make curtains of goat's hair to be a covering upon the tabernacle, even curtains shalt thou make. And thou shalt make a covering for the tent of ram's skin dyed red, and a covering above of badger skin. And thou shalt make boards for the tabernacle of shittim wood standing up, and thou shalt overlay the boards with gold, and make their rings of gold for places for the bars, and thou shalt overlay the bars with gold. And thou shalt make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen of cunning work, with cherubim shall it be made, and thou shalt hang up the veil under the taches, that thou mayest bring in thither within the veil the ark of the testimony, and the veil shall divide you between the holy place and the most holy. So this last one's talking about the veil that goes between the holy of holies and just the holy place. Okay, so materials. Let's do the flash. What is this thing made of? Okay, it's got badger skin for sure. That's the outer side. Now, there's a note about the badger skin. We don't actually know what badger skin was. Okay, there's some discussion of was this badger skin? That's what the word the translators gave it. There's some people that think it was seal skin or some other type of skin. So we're not really certain what exact skin that was. However, its purpose was to be protective from the elements. Okay, so very, very tough. Outside was tough. So badger skin. What else?
It was ram skin and badger skin combined. It was two types of leather, basically.
So there's multiple curtains. They also had ram skin, but you're talking about the outside.
The covering was a mix of leathers.
Yes, multiple layers of leathers. So yes, badger, ram, and then inside of that was goat. There's goat skin, and inside of that, fine linen. So fine linen inside of that. So, okay. And then the wood was shittim wood. So same type of wood. And then what was it coated with? Gold. Okay. Yeah. So if you read it, I never was able to nail down 100% sure if these are layers of curtains. I believe it is. If I read it right. 10 curtains of fine linen, 10 curtains of goat hair, 1 curtain of ram skin dyed, 1 curtain of badger skin. So this would be multiple layers.
I thought there were sections.
So I did not have time to, they give you the dimensions of each one. Yeah. So there was clearly, it gives the impression
layers. I'm sorry.
that it was 5.
This is not germane to the impact of the statement.
So I had a lot of trouble figuring out if it's 10 side by side or if it gives the impression that it's 5 layers and 5 layers together. That was my impression with gold things, but I didn't get that nailed down. Okay.
The only thing is when we flip it and look at the impact, the 12 tribes of Israel, I think is...
Okay. There's a slide, the next slide I have, I can go to it quickly. They calculated 23 sheets, but I was not able to verify that. And that's 10 of one, 10 of the other on top of each other.
Okay.
So we need to look into that.
Yeah. That's not germane to the point now, but yes. Sorry.
I'm uncertain. I definitely am not dogmatic. What was the overall dimensions? So 45 feet long, 13 feet wide, 15 feet high.
You're inches there.
You put inch marks. I was like, that's really small.
You know, you can't fix them all. Okay, I'll note that. Thank you.
You just scaled it down for our purposes.
That's right. It's on this the next picture. Okay, good. What was the features? Okay, it was inside. Inside it was ornamented very beautifully. From outside you would not see that beauty because it was covered, right? But where was God's presence? Inside, right? So, okay, and then the purpose. What was the purpose? You can see I put it's to create a separate spot that's holy, a holy place and a holy of holy place. Okay, so let me see. Yeah, here's you can see the different curtains, right? Different layers of curtains. Let's see. Okay, so the altar of burnt offering. So we've completed all the things inside. Well, no, we haven't talked about the altar of incense. So they did this one last, I think, because they went by the way it's listed in Exodus. We've talked about this, and we've talked about the outside. So now we're going to talk about this one, the altar, outside altar. Okay, the altar of burnt offering. And thou shalt make an altar of shittim wood, 5 cubits long, 5 cubits broad, and the altar shall be 4 square, and the height thereof shall be 3 cubits. And thou shalt make the horns of it upon the 4 corners thereof. His horns shall be of the same, and thou shalt overlay it with brass. And thou shalt make his pans to receive his ashes, and his shovels, and his basins, and his flesh hooks, and his fire pans, all the vessels thereof thou shalt make of brass. And thou shalt make for it a gate of network of brass. Upon the net shalt thou make 4 brazen rings in the 4 corners thereof, and thou shalt put it under the compass of the altar beneath, and the net that the net may be even to the midst of the altar. And thou shalt make staves for the altar, staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with brass. And the staves shall be put into the rings, and the staves shall be upon the 2 sides of the altar to bear it. Hollow with board shalt thou make it, as it was showed thee in the mount, so shall thou make it. Okay, so materials. What's this thing made of?
Shittim wood.
It's made of shittim wood. Now it's an altar. That means there's going to be fire in it, right? So would you cover this thing with gold? No, that would be a bad idea, right? Because it would melt. So you need something that's going to hold up to the heat, and that's why brass is used. So brass is the other thing. So shittim wood and brass. Okay, and we have the dimensions. 5 cubits long, 5 cubits broad, and the height thereof 3 cubits. All right, and then the features. So it's going to have horns. It's going to have a hollow place. It's hollow in the center so that the ashes can fall through. It's going to have a grid, right? So the fire can be on the grid and the ashes can fall down through. It's going to have things for handling the ash. Altar with horns. It's going to have staves. Again, they're going to carry it with staves just like the other items. Okay, what was its purpose?
Altar.
It's an altar, right? It's where you're going to burn sacrifices. It's a brass altar to burn sacrifices. It was the location was inside the courtyard between the entrance and the holy place toward the east side. Okay? So again, this has a bunch of different pictures depending on where you look. A bunch of different, some people imagine it as having a grid underneath so air can get up in. It's unclear. Some have the bottom being solid and the air just circulates here, so that's unclear. But this would be the altar. Questions? Okay, so I am running out of time, so I want to definitely get to the pictures, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to speed up a little bit. I'm not going to read the passage. I just want to talk about the outer court. So let's talk about the outer court. The outer court was made with these curtains all the way around it. What were the materials made of? So you can see here, what was the materials? Fine twine linen, okay? So it's a curtain of fine twine linen, and then it had brass poles, and the brass poles had silver designs on them, okay? So fine twine linen, pillars of brass, and silver. The dimensions are given there. It's about 150 feet, 75 feet wide, 7.5 feet tall. Features, it was a rectangular courtyard, and the curtains were held up by brass pillars, which we talked about. What was its purpose? What was the purpose of the courtyard?
It was just to be the basically the building around the surrounding of the tabernacle.
Yeah, it's the barrier that's setting aside this spot as special for worship, right? It's establishing the outer boundary. Okay, where was it located? True, the walls were located outside, but where was the tabernacle located in the camp?
Center.
In the center of the camp. Okay, good. Here's a picture of what people imagine it may have looked like. So, sorry, the picture has been reversed on this one, but here's the gate. Also, there was a gate, right, a curtain gate. So you come in the gate, there would be the bronze altar where the sacrifices are made. This would be the Holy of Holies, and you would have the table with the bread on one side and the candlestick on the other. The altar of incense here, we haven't talked about yet, and then the Ark of the Covenant here in the Holy of Holies.
What was the purpose?
The purpose of it was to be establish the boundary of the place where you would go to worship. Okay, and then the altar of incense. This is the last one for the Old Testament, and then we'll look at the New Testament. And I don't want to read this one either. I'll just go to the key parts. Okay, the altar of incense. Let me go forward a second. The altar of incense was here. It was right at the entrance before you went into the Holy of Holies. What they would do is they would burn incense on this, okay? And it would fill the area with smoke, okay? And that incense, you can see. It also had staves so that they could carry it. So now let me go back and we'll just talk about it. Okay? Material, you can see, again, made of shittim wood, and it was overlaid with pure gold. Why would you overlay this one with pure gold even though it's got a fire in it?
It's not much heat.
Not as much heat, yeah.
And it's inside.
You're just burning incense. You're not burning wood with sacrifice. And it's inside. Dimensions, 1.5 feet, 1.5 feet. So it's relatively small, and then 3 feet high. The features, it was golden altar used for incense. Once a year, the blood of the offering of atonement at Yom Kippur would be put on it. So once a year. And then the purpose was it was to burn incense, and it was inside the holy place next to the veil. All right, again, here's the picture. Now, I want to talk very quickly about the New Testament. How does Christ fulfill all of those? What was the purpose of all of that tabernacle and detail? Because it was a picture of what Christ was going to do. So let's look at what Christ was going to do. All right, so flip to your second page. Here's my second page. The Ark of the Covenant. What did it foreshadow? Well, it tells us in Hebrew 9, 6 through 15. I didn't put all the verses, but some of the verses. It says, but into the second, it's talking about the holy place and the holy of holy place. Into the second, the Holy of Holies, went the high priest alone once every year, not without blood. He had to take blood in there with him, right? It's a covering. Which he offered for himself and for the errors of the people. And the Holy Ghost, this signifying or showing that the way into the holiest of all was not yet made manifest, while as the first tabernacle was yet standing. But Christ, being come a high priest of good things to come, by a greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, that is to say, not of this building, neither by the blood of goats and calves, but by his own blood, he entered in once into the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption for us. How much more shall the blood of Christ, who, through the eternal Spirit, offered himself without spot to God, purge your conscience from dead works to serve the living God. All right, so let's take these one at a time. So what were the materials in this heavenly tabernacle?
Perfect tabernacle indeed.
We don't know what it was, right? It's a perfect tabernacle in heaven. It's not made with hands. It's not made with hands. It's not made by people. This is God's tabernacle. Okay, what are its features? Jesus offered... Okay, this is not the tabernacle. The Ark of the Covenant. I'm sorry, I was saying the wrong thing. Without spot, offered his own blood, he entered in once. So think of the old Ark of the Covenant. They would have to enter in with blood once a year. Christ only entered in once, and it was done. The purpose, having obtained eternal redemption. That's what he did. And the location, through the eternal Spirit, offered himself without spot to God. So Christ made the offering to God through the Spirit. Okay, let's talk about the showbread. So some of these others are relatively fast. The table of showbread. John 6:35 says, and Jesus said unto them, I am the bread of life. He that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst. So what were the materials? Christ, right? Jesus' body. When Jesus said this, people left him because they said, hey, this guy's a cannibal. This guy's crazy. So Jesus' body was the bread. Features. It would last forever, right? He that cometh to me shall never hunger. How long did the bread in the temple last? 1 week. Jesus' body, bread lasts forever. The purpose. Eternal sustenance, right? The priests, when they ate the showbread, they would have to eat it every week. But Jesus, once we are saved, we never thirst, we never hunger. The location is in the Lord himself. Okay? So, golden candlestick. Golden candlesticks. John 8:12 says, Then spake Jesus again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. Okay. So what is the material? It's Jesus himself again. Jesus, through his word. His word is the light, gives us the light. The features have to follow the Lord. Requires following after Jesus. Got to follow the light if you want to be able to use it. What was the purpose?
Eternal life.
Give life, right? The light of life. It gives life. And where is it located? It's located in walking with Jesus. The walk shall not walk in darkness. Okay, the tabernacle. Hebrews 1-2 says, "Now, of the things which we have spoken, this is the sum. We have such an high priest who is set on the right hand of the throne of the majesty in the heavens, a minister of the sanctuary and of the true tabernacle, which the Lord pitched and not man." Right? When it's talking about pitched, it's talking about setting up. They had to set up that tabernacle in the old times. Well, the tabernacle in heaven isn't set up by man. It's set up by the Lord. Okay, so it's the tabernacle. What about the materials? All I could say was true, right? Whatever it is, whatever it's made of, it's true, it's pure, it's perfect. It's not made with fine linen, it's made with truth. Features. It was the Lord that pitched it, made by the Lord. Purpose. It's the place for Christ to minister to God, right? Jesus is offering himself to God in the heavenly tabernacle. And where's it at? It's the sanctuary in heaven. Okay, I know we're running short on time here. The altar of burnt offering, I won't read it. Let's just go through the materials. The altar of burnt offering. So this is the altar that was outside the tabernacle where they would burn things. Okay, so it says, "But this man, after he had offered one sacrifice for sins forever, sat down on the right hand of God. From henceforth, expecting till his enemies be made his footstool. For by one offering he hath perfected forever them that are sanctified." Okay, what was the materials? Jesus. But this man, himself, that he's offering himself. All right, what are the features?
Eternal sacrifice.
How many? How many? One, right? One sacrifice for all sins forever. It's not like in the tabernacle where they had to do it all the time. And the purpose? Perfected forever them that are sanctified. So by one offering, he made everyone who puts their faith and trust in him perfect for all time. Can you lose your salvation based on this? No, not if you're perfected forever. Okay, and the location? God in heaven. He offered himself to God in heaven through the Spirit. All right, so I think we'll have to stop there. Let's see, how far? Outer court. Okay, maybe we can do these last two real fast. Outer court. Ephesians 2:14 says, "For he is our peace, who hath made both one, and hath broken down the middle wall of partition between us." Remember that wall, that curtain on the outside, that was to keep the people back. Right? It was a separation, but Jesus broke down that barrier. And then there was also the veil between the holy place and the Holy of Holies. Jesus also broke that down. So Jesus broke down those barriers. So the materials, Christ himself. Features, broke down the partition. So it wasn't putting up a partition, Jesus broke it down. Purpose, bring us to God. The place is the connection between us and God. All right? And then the last one, altar of incense. Maybe I didn't get the highlights on this, so we'll just go through them. The materials. The altar of incense, the materials are the prayers of the saints, right? That incense that was burning, going up, it's a picture of our prayers. God had incense to our prayers in heaven. Right? So not only is our prayers go up, but God's mixing it with his own input through the Holy Spirit. The purpose, God will hear and respond. And the location? Before the throne of God. Our prayers go up before the throne of God. Okay, so I know that was fast. There was a little bit too much in this lesson to try and cram into one. But just remember, you do have the answers on the back. So let's go ahead and close in prayer, and we'll be dismissed. Dear Lord, thank you for your word. We know sometimes when we read those passages in the Old Testament, they seem dry, Lord, but when we connect them to the New Testament and how you fulfilled those things, dear Lord, they become alive and are full of meaning. I just pray that you'd help us to study your word, that we might grow.